I think I didn't do anything wrong. Just wanted more excitement in my life, even if it meant asking for an open marriage. But now I'm sitting here with divorce papers in my hand, my children staring at me in shock, and I can't believe my husband is actually going through with this. I thought he'd always be there for me, no matter what I did. The kitchen smelled like burnt coffee and disappointment. I stood at the marble countertop, watching Mark pour his second cup of the morning, his movements mechanical and distant. At 40, my husband had settled into a routine that made me feel suffocated. Same job, same conversations, same predictable life stretching endlessly ahead. Mark, we need to talk, I said, my voice cutting through the morning silence. He looked up from his newspaper, those tired brown eyes meeting mine. What about I sold? I took a deep breath, knowing this conversation would change everything. I've been thinking about us, about our marriage. Don't you think we've gotten stagnant? Mark set down his coffee cup with deliberate care. Stagnant? We have 2 kids, a mortgage and responsibilities. What exactly are you getting at? I want to explore other options, other people. The words tumbled out faster than I'd planned. It's called an open marriage, Mark. Lots of couples are doing it these days. It's modern, it's healthy, and it could save our relationship. The silence that followed was deafening. Mark's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, then something that looked like physical pain. You want to sleep with other people, he said flatly. It's not just about sex. It's about growth, about experiencing life fully. We married young, Mark. Don't you ever wonder what else is out there? No, I sold. I don't. His voice was steady, but I could see his hands trembling slightly. I made vows to you. I meant them. Vows from 20 years ago. People change, Mark. Needs change. This isn't about you not being enough. It's about me needing more. Mark stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the tile floor. More than your family? More than your children? Don't make this about the kids, I snapped. This is about us, about me being honest about what I need instead of sneaking around. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Mark's eyes widened, and I realized I'd said too much. Sneaking around? His voice was barely a whisper. I sold. Have you already? I haven't done anything wrong, I said quickly. I'm trying to do this the right way, the honest way. I'm asking for your permission. My permission to destroy our marriage? Your permission to save it. Mark, be reasonable. This is normal now. It's 2024, not 1950. Monogamy is an outdated concept that... Stop! Mark held up his hand. Just stop talking. He walked to the window, staring out at our backyard, where we'd hosted countless barbecues, where our kids had taken their first steps, where we'd planned to grow old together. 20 years, he said quietly. 20 years I've loved you, supported you, built a life with you, and you think so little of that, of us, that you want to throw it away for some excitement? I'm not throwing anything away. I'm trying to add to what we have. Mark turned around, and I was shocked by the coldness in his eyes. By sleeping with other men. It doesn't have to be just me. You could. No. The word came out like a gunshot. Absolutely not. I won't share my wife, and I sure as hell won't participate in whatever this is you're proposing. You're being old-fashioned, Mark. Possessive. Love isn't about ownership. This isn't love, I sold. This is you being selfish and trying to dress it up as something noble. I felt my temper flare. Selfish? For being honest about my needs? For trying to communicate instead of just what? Cheating? Because that's what this is really about, isn't it? You've already found someone, and now you want my blessing to sleep with him. Niaz, the accuracy of his accusation made me defensive. It's not like that. And then what is it like? Explain it to me, I sold. Make me understand how destroying our family is somehow the right thing to do. And before I could answer, 17-year-old Zara walked into the kitchen, her dark hair messy from sleep. She stopped short, sensing the tension. What's going on? She asked, looking between us. Nothing, sweetheart, I said quickly. Just a discussion. But Zara was too smart, too perceptive. She'd inherited Mark's ability to read people, and I could see her taking in Mark's rigid posture, my defensive stance, the charged atmosphere between us. Doesn't sound like nothing, she said carefully. Mark grabbed his keys from the counter. I'm going for a drive. Mark, wait! But he was already walking toward the garage, leaving me standing in the kitchen with our daughter's questioning eyes on me. Mom, what did you do? Zara asked quietly. I didn't do anything wrong, I insisted. I just suggested we try something new, something that could help our marriage. Zara's expression shifted to something I'd never seen before. disappointment mixed with disgust. What kind of something new makes Dad look like someone died? I couldn't answer her. How could I explain to my teenage daughter that her mother needed more than the life we'd built together? How could I make her understand that love shouldn't mean settling for less than everything you wanted? Later that evening, Mark still hadn't returned. I called my best friend Janet, needing someone to validate my feelings. "You did the right thing," Janet assured me over the phone. "Honesty is always better than sneaking around. Mark will come around once he realizes you're not going anywhere." But as I hung up and looked around our empty house, I wasn't so sure. Mark's coffee cup still sat on the counter where he'd left it, and something about that abandoned cup made my stomach clench with an emotion I didn't want to name. Around midnight, I heard the garage door open. Mark came in quietly, moving through the house like a stranger. I waited for him to come to our bedroom, to continue our conversation, but he never did. In the morning, I found him asleep on the couch in his home office, still wearing yesterday's clothes. On his desk, I noticed a yellow legal pad, with notes I couldn't quite read from the doorway. Something cold settled in my chest, but I pushed it away. Mark would understand eventually. He had to. After all, where else would he go? 3 weeks had passed since our kitchen confrontation, and Mark's silence was becoming unbearable. He spoke to me only when necessary, communicated through the children, and had started sleeping permanently in his home office. But I was determined not to let his dramatic reactions stop me from living my life. "He's just being stubborn," I told my coworkers during lunch at the trendy downtown bistro where we often met. "Men hate change, but eventually he'll see that I'm trying to save our marriage, not destroy it." My colleague Sarah nodded sympathetically. "My ex-husband was the same way. So possessive, so traditional. You deserve to be happy, Isolde." "Exactly," agreed Jennifer from accounting. "It's your life too. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your needs just because he's insecure." Their validation felt like oxygen. At home, the atmosphere was suffocating. Mark's cold politeness, Zara's increasingly hostile looks, 15-year-old Matthew's confused attempts to maintain normalcy. But here, with my friends, I felt understood. "Actually," I said, lowering my voice, "I've been talking to someone. Tom Beckett from the Morrison account. He's refreshing." "The divorced guy with the BMW?" Sarah's eyes lit up. "He's gorgeous." "And successful," Jennifer added. "What's he like?" "Sophisticated, worldly. He actually understands that relationships can be complicated." I pulled out my phone, showing them Tom's latest text. "Thinking about our conversation yesterday. Dinner tonight?" "He's asking you out?" Sarah gasped. "We're just talking, as friends. Mark and I are still working through things." But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't entirely true. Tom and I had been exchanging increasingly flirtatious messages for weeks. He was everything Mark wasn't: spontaneous, exciting, willing to take risks. When he looked at me, I felt like the woman I used to be before mortgage payments and parent-teacher conferences consumed my life. That evening, I told Mark I was having dinner with the girls. He didn't even look up from his laptop. "Fine," he said. "I'll make sure the kids eat." His indifference stung more than anger would have. At least anger meant he still cared. Tom had chosen an upscale restaurant across town, the kind of place Mark would have called pretentious. But I loved the dim lighting, the expensive wine, the way Tom's attention made me feel sophisticated and desirable. "You look beautiful," Tom said as I slid into the booth across from him. "That dress is perfect on you." I'd bought the dress that afternoon, something I never would have worn to a family dinner. Black, fitted, with a neckline that suggested possibilities. "Thank you. It's nice to have someone notice." "Trouble at home?" Tom's hand found mine across the table. "Mark is struggling with some changes I've suggested. He's very traditional." "Ah." Tom's thumb traced circles on my palm. "One of those guys who thinks he owns his wife." "Exactly. I've tried to explain that love doesn't mean possession, but he can't seem to understand. Some men never do. They're threatened by their partner's independence, their growth." Tom signaled for another bottle of wine. "What kind of changes are we talking about?" I told him everything. About the open marriage proposal, Mark's reaction, the Cold War that had settled over our house. Tom listened with the kind of intense focus Mark hadn't shown me in years. "You're incredibly brave," he said when I finished. "Most people are too scared to be honest about what they really want." "You don't think I'm being selfish?" "Selfish? For wanting to live authentically? For refusing to settle for less than you deserve?" Tom shook his head. "That's not selfish, Isolde. That's self-aware." The validation was intoxicating. By the time we finished the second bottle of wine, Tom's hand was resting on my thigh, and I wasn't moving it away. "My place isn't far from here," he said quietly. I should have said no. Should have gone home to my family, tried harder to work things out with Mark. But the wine and Tom's attention, and the thrill of feeling desired again, made the decision for me. Tom's apartment was everything I'd expected. Modern, expensive, with a view of the city skyline. We barely made it through the front door before we were kissing, his hands tangled in my hair, mine fumbling with his shirt buttons. Afterwards, lying in his king-sized bed, while he ordered room service from some exclusive restaurant, I felt more alive than I had in years. This was what I'd been missing. Passion, excitement, the electric thrill of the unknown. "No regrets?" Tom asked, trailing his fingers along my bare shoulder. "None," I said, and meant it. I got home after midnight. Mark was still awake, sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop and a cup of coffee that had probably gone cold hours ago. "How was dinner?" he asked without looking up. "Fine." "Good. We went to that new place on 5th Street. His fingers continued typing, but I noticed his jaw was tense. "What are you working on so late?" "Just some research." Something in his tone made me nervous, but I was too tired and too buzzed from my evening with Tom to pursue it. Over the next few weeks, I found myself living two lives. During the day, I was a sold Merrick, administrative coordinator, and mother of two. But in the evenings, whenever I could slip away, I became someone else entirely. Tom's sophisticated companion, a woman who wore expensive lingerie and drank wine that cost more than our weekly grocery budget. Tom never asked me to leave Mark. He seemed perfectly content with our arrangement, which made everything easier. He understood that I needed excitement, not complications. "This is perfect," he said one evening as we lay in his bed, the city lights twinkling below us. "No drama, no demands. Just two adults enjoying each other's company." Exactly what I wanted, I agreed. But at home, things were deteriorating rapidly. Zara had stopped speaking to me entirely except when absolutely necessary. Matthew was acting out at school, getting into fights and skipping classes. And Mark was like a ghost haunting our house, present but not really there. "Mom," Matthew said one evening as I was getting ready to meet Tom, "can you stay home tonight? Maybe we could watch a movie or something?" The hope in his 15-year-old voice almost broke my heart. "I can't tonight, honey. I have plans." "You always have plans now." "That's not true." "It is true," Zara said from the doorway, her voice cold. "You're never here anymore. And when you are, you're checking your phone constantly." "I'm allowed to have friends, Zara." "Friends? Is that what you call it?" She looked me up and down, taking in my new dress, my carefully applied makeup. "Dad deserves better than this." "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You're having an affair, and you're trying to make Dad feel guilty about it by calling it an open marriage." Zara's voice was steady, but I could see tears in her eyes. "You're destroying our family, and you don't even care." She walked away before I could respond, leaving me standing in the hallway with Matthew's disappointed eyes on me. "Is it true, Mom?" he asked quietly. Are you with someone else?" It's complicated, Matthew. Adult relationships are complicated." That's not an answer, but I couldn't give him the answer he wanted. How could I explain that sometimes love isn't enough, that sometimes you need more than the safe, predictable life you've built? I met Tom anyway, pushing away the guilt and the image of Matthew's hurt face. But for the first time, the evening felt hollow, the excitement tinged with something that tasted like shame. When I got home, Mark was waiting for me in the living room. He wasn't pretending to work this time, just sitting in his chair, looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. "We need to talk," he said. "It's late, Mark. Can't this wait until—" "No, it can't wait." He stood up, and I noticed he was holding a manila folder. "Sit down, Isolde." Something in his voice made me obey. Mark had never spoken to me with that tone before, calm, controlled, but with an undercurrent of steel that made my blood run cold. "I've been doing some thinking," he said, settling back into his chair. "About us, about what you said you wanted, about what's best for our family." "Good. I'm glad you're finally ready to discuss this rationally." "Oh, I'm being very rational." Mark opened the folder and pulled out several sheets of paper. "I've made some decisions." He handed me the first sheet. It was a printout of text messages, my text messages with Tom. My stomach dropped as I read my own words. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Mark is working late again, so we have plenty of time. How did you? Your phone backs up to the family iCloud account. Did you forget? Mark's voice was still eerily calm. There's more. The next sheet was a bank statement, highlighting charges to restaurants I'd never been to with Mark, hotels I'd never stayed at with my family, purchases at lingerie stores during my lunch breaks. Mark, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain this? He handed me another printout, a photo from Tom's Instagram account, showing the two of us at dinner, his arm around me, both of us laughing. Or this, another photo, this one from outside his apartment building, Tom's hand on my lower back as he guided me toward the entrance. I felt like I was drowning. You've been following me? I've been protecting myself, and our children. Mark took the papers back, arranging them neatly in the folder. You wanted honesty, Isolde. You wanted everything out in the open. Well, here it is. This isn't what I meant. No? Because this looks exactly like what you described. You're sleeping with another man. The only difference is, you didn't get my permission first. The coldness in his voice was terrifying. This wasn't the Mark I'd married, the gentle man who'd held me when I cried, who'd coached our kids' soccer teams, who'd never raised his voice in anger. Mark, please, let's talk about this. We can work through. No, I sold. We can't. He closed the folder and stood up. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. He walked toward the stairs, then paused. Oh, and Isolde? You might want to check with your friend Janet. I heard through the grapevine that her husband found some interesting text messages on her phone too. Something about encouraging married women to live their truth regardless of the consequences. My blood turned to ice. Janet had been my biggest supporter, my voice of reason when doubt crept in. If her husband had found our conversations, sweet dreams, Mark said, and disappeared upstairs, leaving me alone with the wreckage of my carefully constructed justifications. The next morning brought a new reality I wasn't prepared for. Mark had moved all his belongings from our bedroom to his office extension, installing a lock I didn't have the key to. When I tried to talk to him about the previous night's revelations, he looked at me like I was a stranger. There's nothing to discuss, he said, pouring coffee into a travel mug. You've made your position clear. I'm making mine clear now. Mark, please. What we had before, it was good, wasn't it? We can get back to that. What we had before was based on trust and fidelity. You've made it clear those things don't matter to you. That's not fair. I was trying to be honest. Honest? Mark's laugh was bitter. Honest would have been telling me about Tom before you started sleeping with him. This wasn't honesty, Isolde. This was you getting caught. Zira chose that moment to walk into the kitchen, and the look she gave me could have frozen hell. Dad, can you drive me to school? She asked, pointedly ignoring my presence. Of course, sweetheart. I can drive you, I offered. I always drive you on Thursdays. I'd rather walk, Zara said coldly. Mark put his hand on her shoulder. I'll drive you. Go get your backpack. After Zara left the room, I tried once more. You're turning her against me. I'm not turning anyone against anyone. Your actions speak for themselves. My actions? I fell in love, Mark. I'm sorry if that threatens you. But love isn't something you can control or contain. Mark stared at me for a long moment. You think you love him? Yes, I think I do. Then there's really nothing left to discuss. He left with Zara, and I was alone with the crushing silence of our house. I tried calling Janet for support, but her phone went straight to voicemail. When I called her office, her assistant said she was taking some personal time. The isolation was suffocating. Even my coworkers seemed different when I arrived at the office. Conversations stopped when I entered rooms, and the lunch invitations had dried up. Word was spreading, apparently. I texted Tom. Can we meet tonight? I need to talk to someone who understands. His response was quick. Sorry, busy tonight. Rain check? For the first time since our affair began, Tom wasn't available when I needed him. The rejection stung more than it should have. That evening, I tried to establish some normalcy by cooking dinner for the family. Mark came home at his usual time, but instead of joining us at the table, he made himself a plate and took it to his office. Dad always eats with us, Matthew said, looking confused. Dad is being dramatic, I said, trying to keep my voice light. He'll get over it. But Zara wasn't having it. Dad isn't being dramatic, Mom. Dad is being smart. Zara, no. I'm done pretending this is okay. My 17-year-old daughter stood up, her dinner barely touched. You cheated on Dad. You lied to all of us. And now you're trying to make him look like the bad guy because he won't pretend it didn't happen. It's not that simple. It is that simple. You broke our family. Own it. She stormed out, leaving Matthew and me at the table. My son looked between the door where his sister had disappeared and me, his face a mask of confusion and hurt. Mom, why is everyone so angry? How could I explain adult relationships to a 15-year-old? How could I make him understand that sometimes you need more than what you have, even when what you have is supposed to be enough? Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, I said carefully. Sometimes they want different things. Did you make a mistake? The question hung in the air between us. I thought about Tom, about the excitement and passion I'd felt in his arms, about the way he made me feel alive again. No, I said finally. I don't think I did. Matthew's face crumpled, and for the first time, I saw my gentle son look at me with something approaching disgust. Then why is everyone so sad? I didn't have an answer for that. Later that night, I tried once more to reach out to Mark. I knocked on his office door, but there was no response. When I tried the handle, it was locked. Mark, please, we need to talk about this. We need to figure out how to move forward. We are moving forward, came his muffled voice through the door. Just not together. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm done, Isolde. Done pretending this marriage means something to you. Done watching you lie to our children. Done being made a fool of. You're not a fool, aren't I? Everyone knows, Isolde. Everyone. My coworkers, the neighbors, the parents at the kids' school. My wife is having an affair, and I'm the pathetic husband who's too weak to do anything about it. The pain in his voice almost broke through my defenses. Almost. I never meant for it to happen this way. If you had just listened to me in the beginning, if you had been willing to try what? Watching my wife sleep with other men? Sharing you like some kind of commodity? Mark's voice rose for the first time in weeks. Is that really what you think love looks like? I think love looks like acceptance, like supporting each other's growth and happiness. And I think love looks like commitment, like choosing your family over your desires, like keeping the promises you made. We were at an impasse, speaking different languages, wanting different things. So what now? I asked. There was a long silence. Then, now you decide what matters more, your family or your boyfriend. Because you can't have both. That's not fair. You're making me choose between... You already chose, Isolde. You chose the moment you started sleeping with him. I'm just asking you to be honest about it. I walked away from his door feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. The house that had once been filled with laughter and family dinners now felt like a mausoleum, haunted by the ghost of what we used to be. I tried calling Tom again, needing his reassurance, his perspective on the situation. This time he answered, "Hey, beautiful. Miss me? Tom, I need to see you. Things at home are complicated." There was a pause. How complicated? Mark found out. About us. He has photos, text messages, everything. Another pause. Longer this time. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate. Tom, he's talking about ending our marriage. He's turned the kids against me. I need you right now. Isolde, I care about you, but I'm not looking for drama. We agreed this would be simple, fun, no complications. This isn't my fault. I tried to handle it the right way. Look, maybe we should cool things off for a while. Let the dust settle. The line went dead, leaving me staring at my phone in disbelief. Tom, the man I'd risked everything for, was abandoning me the moment things got difficult. I sank onto the couch, finally allowing myself to feel the full weight of what I'd lost. Mark's love, my children's respect, my friends' support, and now even Tom's attention. The excitement and passion I'd been chasing suddenly felt hollow, meaningless, but it was too late for regrets. The damage was done, and Mark had made it clear there was no going back. In the distance, I heard the sound of Mark's printer running late into the night, and something told me he wasn't working on office projects. The school's annual spring fundraiser had always been one of our family traditions. Mark and I would dress up, bid on silent auction items we didn't need, and pretend to enjoy small talk with other parents while the kids performed in the talent show. This year, I'd considered skipping it, but that would have been admitting defeat. I chose my outfit carefully. A navy dress that was elegant but not too flashy, pearls that suggested respectability. If people were going to talk about me, at least they'd see that I wasn't falling apart. Mark arrived separately, which didn't go unnoticed. I watched him from across the gymnasium. noting how several parents approached him with sympathetic expressions and meaningful glances in my direction. Emily Harris, his childhood friend who'd recently moved back to town, seemed particularly attentive, her hand resting on his arm as they talked. Isold. The voice belonged to Patricia Morrison, the PTA president and neighborhood busybody. How lovely to see you. How are you holding up? The phrasing was deliberate, loaded with false concern and genuine curiosity. I'm fine, Patricia. Why wouldn't I be? Oh, well, you know how people talk. I just want you to know that if you need anything, someone to talk to, a recommendation for a good therapist, I'm here. The condescension was breathtaking. I don't need therapy, Patricia. But thank you for your concern. Of course, of course. It's just that divorce is so hard on everyone involved, especially the children. Who said anything about divorce? Patricia's eyes widened with fake surprise. Oh, I just assumed. With everything that's been going around. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have presumed. She walked away, leaving me with the uncomfortable realization that my marriage's dissolution was apparently common knowledge. I looked around the room with new eyes, noticing the whispered conversations that stopped when I approached. The pitying looks, the way other parents seemed to be avoiding me. Zara was performing in the talent show with her best friend, a piano duet they'd been practicing for months. I found a seat near the front, but when I waved at her, she looked right through me. After their performance, she ran straight to Mark, throwing her arms around him in a hug that lasted longer than usual. During intermission, I tried to mingle, to project normalcy, but every conversation felt loaded with subtext. How's Mark doing? Asked Susan Chen, mother of Matthew's friend. He seems tired lately. He's fine. We're all fine. That's good to hear. It's just that my husband mentioned seeing him at that lawyer's office downtown, Johnson and Associates. They handle divorces, I think. The blood drained from my face. I'm sure it was just business consultation. Oh, of course. I didn't mean to imply. Well, you know how men are about asking for help with anything. But her smile was sharp, predatory. She knew exactly what she was implying. I excused myself and headed for the bathroom, needing a moment to collect myself. But as I approached, I heard voices from inside, women's voices, talking in the way women do when they think they're alone. Can't believe she had the nerve to show up tonight. I know. If I'd been caught cheating, I'd be too ashamed to show my face. Poor Mark. He's such a good man. He deserves so much better. And those poor kids. Zara looks mortified. Did you see how she avoided her mother? I heard the other man is married too. His wife threw him out last week. My stomach clenched. Tom hadn't mentioned that his wife had found out. Well, what goes around comes around. You can't destroy families and expect no consequences. I backed away from the bathroom, my heart pounding. The judgment in their voices, the casual cruelty of their gossip, made me feel exposed and vulnerable in a way I'd never experienced. When I returned to the gymnasium, I found Mark talking to a group of parents near the refreshment table. As I approached, the conversation died. Isold, Mark said politely. How are you enjoying the evening? His formal tone in front of our friends and neighbors was more humiliating than any argument we'd had in private. It's lovely, I managed. The kids did beautifully. Yes, they did. They've been working very hard despite everything. The emphasis on that last word was subtle but unmistakable. Mark was letting everyone know that our children were suffering because of my choices. Mark, could I speak with you privately? I don't think that's necessary. Anything you need to say can be said here. Emily Harris stepped closer to Mark, a gesture of solidarity that wasn't lost on anyone present. I'd known Emily since high school. She'd been Mark's friend first, his confidant, the girl he'd dated briefly before we got together. Her recent return to town suddenly seemed less coincidental. Mark, please, don't do this here. Don't do what? Don't treat you the way you've treated our marriage? Don't show you the same respect you've shown our family? The other parents were pretending not to listen, but I could feel their attention like a physical weight. This was what they'd come for, not the talent show or the fundraising, but the drama of watching a marriage implode in public. You're embarrassing our children, I said quietly. I'm embarrassing them? Mark's voice remained level, but there was steel underneath. Isold. Our children are embarrassed because their mother is having an affair. They're embarrassed because their friends' parents are talking about our family. They're embarrassed because you've made our private life a public spectacle. I never wanted it to be public, but you didn't care enough to keep it private, did you? You didn't care enough to consider the consequences before you started sleeping with Tom Beckett. The use of Tom's full name was deliberate, ensuring that everyone present knew exactly who my affair partner was. I could see the recognition in several faces. Tom was well known in our social circle. His wife was on the school board. Mark, stop. Stop what? Stop telling the truth? Stop protecting our children's interests? Stop pretending that what you've done is acceptable? Emily placed her hand on Mark's arm again. Maybe we should. No, Mark said, his eyes never leaving mine. Isolde wanted honesty. She wanted everything out in the open. She wanted an open marriage. Well, this is what that looks like. The silence that followed was deafening. I could feel the judgment of everyone present, their shock and disapproval washing over me like a tide. You're right, I said finally. I did want honesty. And honestly, Mark, this marriage has been dead for years. I just had the courage to admit it. It was a desperate attempt to regain some dignity, but it backfired spectacularly. I could see the disgust in the faces around me, the way parents instinctively stepped back, as if my moral failure might be contagious. Mark's expression didn't change, but I saw something flicker in his eyes. Disappointment, maybe, or pity. Thank you for making that clear, he said quietly. It makes what comes next much easier. Before I could ask what he meant, Matthew appeared at my elbow, his face flushed with embarrassment. Mom, can we go home, please? I looked around the room one more time, seeing my life as others saw it, a cautionary tale, a source of gossip, a woman who'd thrown away everything good for a moment of excitement. Yes, I said, let's go home. But as we walked toward the exit, I heard Mark's voice behind me, calm and clear. Emily, would you like to have coffee tomorrow? I have something I'd like to discuss with you. The implication was obvious, and the timing was perfect. Mark wasn't just moving on. He was doing it publicly, with a woman everyone respected, making it clear that he was the wronged party, seeking solace with an old friend. I drove home in silence, Matthew staring out the window beside me. When we pulled into our driveway, he finally spoke. Mom, why did you do it? Why did you hurt Dad like that? It's complicated, Matthew. No, it's not. His voice was quiet but firm. You chose someone else over us. That's not complicated. That's just mean. He got out of the car and walked into the house, leaving me sitting alone in the driveway, finally understanding that I hadn't just lost my husband, I'd lost my children too. The next morning, I woke to find Mark's car already gone, and a manila envelope on the kitchen counter with my name on it. Inside were divorce papers and a note in Mark's careful handwriting. I'm sorry it came to this, but you've made it clear that our family isn't enough for you. The children deserve better, so do I. At the bottom, in smaller text, my attorney will be in touch.